Have you ever made a Pokemon card investing decision thinking that it was a surefire win only to see that it's absolutely tanked in value? Well, in today's video, I will be taking you through my top 3 worst investment decisions and telling you what they taught me about the Pokemon card market. Stick around till the end so you can learn from my mistakes and make better investing decisions for yourself. Hey guys, it's Pokemonster here, and in today's video I want to be talking about a slightly uncomfortable topic, which is when I have lost money in the Pokemon card investing space. Now, I have been investing in Pokemon since 2012, took a break till 2016, and I've been back at it since then. But in that time, I have made a few losses that have cost me thousands of dollars and pounds. So starting with third place, we have the Giratina V Alt Art PSA 10 from the Japanese set Lost Abyss. So Giratina V is probably one of the top 5 alt arts from the Sword and Shield era, illustrated by the now very revered Shinji Kanda, who is also responsible for that iconic Magikarp IR card as well. Very unique art style, and it fits very well with Giratina. As you can see on the card, there's just so much going on with the texture and the background. Really looks like Giratina is in its element, sort of in the distortion world is what I would guess. But the fail that I've got with this card is when I purchased it, and that was at a time when Japanese waifus and alt arts were being absolutely hyped to the moon. So you could see that alt art prices were doubling or tripling in the space of less than a month. And this all happened at a time when I had my personal collection goal of completing all these Sword and Shield alt arts. But with the prices going up, I was getting a bit of FOMO and thinking, I might not be able to get this if I don't get it at this point, so I'd better get it. But if you look on my screen now, you'll see the purchase price was a massive L considering where it is now, especially with the fact that Lost Abyss has a reprint that's coming out right now. There was a Pokemon Center drop for it actually, which should affect the price of this card more. But I'll purchase this for £900 and I'll put the dollar value on my screen right now. But right now, if you look at solds on my screen, the value of this in PSA 10 is probably going to be no more than like £400. I would say 300 to 350 pounds, which is 400 to 450 US dollars. So I have lost probably about 2/3 in value in this card. About 600 pounds. If I just waited a little bit more, I could have got it. Do I regret it? Well, I do regret the loss in hindsight, and it is easy to see what has happened since then and that the hype was unnatural, but I feel like at the time I just absolutely needed this to finish my set in case it was going to go up even more. I just happened to catch it towards the top end of what it was. So at one point it was probably around 1.2k or 1.5 in US dollars. So I didn't catch it at the absolute peak, but it has just lost so much in value. So this comes in as my third worst investment fail. In second place, we have a trade this time of about £1,300 in value, which is going to be around 1.5, 1.6k USD. So my second worst investment fail ever is this Mew and Mewtwo tag team alt art. Now don't get me wrong, this is an absolutely amazing artwork drawn by Sui. You got the two personalities of Mew and Mewtwo perfectly juxtaposed next to each other. You got the Mew being all playful and the Mewtwo sort of getting annoyed with it, and putting those two on the same card, two of the most popular Pokemon ever, Gen 1 legendaries. I just thought, you can't go wrong with this. And the Sun and Moon sets are a little bit rarer. So I traded this with my friend, who shall remain nameless, around the same time as the Giratina, when the hype from waifus and alt arts and tag teams were all happening at the same time, and I did make a video about that as well, which you can check out in the video link if you want a little bit of a snapshot or moment in history as to what the hype was like back then compared to what it is now. So the trade that I did for this, I lost so much on this, but no hard feelings against my friend because I went in this fully aware of the potential risk of it. But I traded away a vintage black and white BW8 Spiral Force box. So that's the black and white Japanese vintage box, which has the Deoxys on the front, which I bought for like around £600 at the time, but I traded it for a value of £850. Now that in itself is now worth way more than this Mewtwo card, but it gets worse. So hear me out. So aside from trading that black and white 8 Spiral Force box, I also gave him £300 in cash which I had to sell an EV Heroes box in order to get in cash. Now that EV Heroes box on its own now could probably afford this, but even that's not the end of the trade. I actually added more on top to entice him because he had a personal sentiment with this card. So on top of the BW8 Spiral Force booster box, on top of the £300 in cash, I actually added on another Lost Abyss booster box. So funny coincidence because my third worst investment fail is from this set. So Lost Abyss booster box, £300, which is basically EV Heroes, and Black and White 8 Spiral Force. Trading 3 basically sealed booster boxes for a slab that I could have got as a single for myself. But again, it is my own fault. But if you look at the value of this card now on my screen, as I scroll through the eBay solds, it's probably less than £400. So with the trade value of this card being around £1,300, I've probably lost around £900 on this card, or like over 1K in US dollars. So again, this is my second worst investment fail. Do I regret it? Well, I do still love the card, and I'll keep it in my collection forever because this forms part of my other collection goals to get all of the Sun and Moon Tag Team Alt Arts. In a way, it's a good thing that the prices have come down on these because it's my collection goal, so now I can pick up the other ones at my own pace. But in terms of what I had to give away for this, if you look at the price for a BW8 Spiral Force booster box, it's kind of almost so rare on eBay nowadays that you don't even see solds. But I can guarantee you that someone on the secondary market would value that box for around £1,000 or 1,200 US dollars, which is going to be worth 2 to 3 times more than this slab, without even taking into account the EV Heroes booster box and the Lost Abyss booster box. So you can't always win them all, but this was a very, very painful lesson for me, a very, very painful L. But even that is not my worst investment fail, which is coming up very shortly. Alright guys, so we are coming up to my worst investment fail ever, which I have no pleasure in sharing. It is a pretty cool item, if you can sort of hear me getting it ready in the background. But what it is some vintage this time, a base set unweighed booster pack art set. So there you have it, base set unweighed art set as my worst investment fail ever. And I think you can sort of guess when I bought this. This was at the time when Logan Paul created a massive hype in the hobby on Pokemon cards. I'm not making a judgment of whether that was good or bad. Obviously, I have lost money from it, but people are responsible for their own investment decisions. So a lot of money that I shelled out on this, I actually bought this from a unweighed booster box break from someone that I trusted in the UK, which added a little bit of premium to the price. But guess how much I spent on this? This is probably going to be worth around £900 to 1K in pounds now, so probably around 1.2K US dollars maximum as an unweighed art set, right? But guess how much I paid for it? I paid 2.55K for this in pounds, which is going to be like 2.8K US dollars, 2.9K. So looking at the total loss in that, I've lost around 1.7K in pounds on it, which is going to be around 2K in US dollars that I lost purely because of my own mistake in terms of the timing of when I bought it. And at that time, I was already sort of like a seasoned collector and investor, but I didn't know that much about base set. I don't know why I bought packs for £10 unweighed in 2013 and I thought this was a good buy. But with all the hype that's going around, it's easy to get emotional and lose track. And I think at that time, people didn't really have a good concept of how much stock was out there. But in terms of the sealed supply of booster boxes, when there's that mania, when everyone is trying to get some, I think your perception of how much there is on the market gets warped, and it's really, really important for me to try and remember just how much there is from now on. So whilst vintage is probably a safer investment than modern, if you look at the way modern has been going recently with Japanese absolutely just so volatile, Sword and Shield English is sort of going up, but it's had a little bit of retraces in the English market. So vintage should be seen as a slightly safer investment, but because of when I bought this, I lost 2,000 US dollars on it. So now I'm going to tell you what all of these investment buys taught me about investing in Pokemon cards. So if I was going to add up all of the losses that I've made on these 3 investments, it would be well over 3K in Great British pounds or 3.3 to 3.4K in US dollars, Bear with me for some slight errors. I'm calculating the conversion rate in my head. So a very, very painful lesson for me 3 times, because if you think about what 3K can get you now in the market, you can get like sealed cases of Japanese booster boxes. I can buy the Umbreon Gold Star that I'm still missing in my collection. It is important to learn from these mistakes, because otherwise you are depriving yourself from further investment opportunities and you're not making the best use of your money. But the biggest thing that this taught me is sort of this quote from Warren Buffett, which I'm going to read out, which is, be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful. So what that means is that I should not have been buying into the hype when the prices were already going up. Because at the point that these alt arts or base set packs have like tripled in value, it's sort of already too late to be investing into it. You're sort of going to be catching the top end of the increases. And if the product does not have the fundamentals to sustain it at that price, it's going to come crashing down. Now, the difference for me is for base set, I bought this in November of 2020, so I didn't really know how to evaluate all of these factors, but I should have known better with these 2 buys. But the Giratina, right? Lost Abyss was not really printed that much at the time, so I thought, okay, it's a really iconic card. People really love alt arts. What can go wrong? But when you look at the PSA 10 population of this, it's actually huge. So I had a misperception of what the population was. And with the Mew and Mewtwo alt art, this did actually confuse me. So the question is whether I'm wrong or the market is wrong. I think that these Japanese tag team alt arts are super undervalued. So the trade value that I was doing was actually good for me, because the population on this card is going to be so much lower than the Giratina alt art. And I'm going to put PSA 10 population out now. It's a really low PSA 10 population. So I did go wrong with this, but I still feel like, so this one for my own purposes is the one where like I made the smallest mistake, but it still resulted in a huge loss. Whereas the other 2, I think I could have foreseen the mistakes that I was making, had friends telling me as well. So what I've learned is be greedy when others are fearful, but be fearful when others are greedy. The next time there's going to be a massive hype about something, like English Sword and Shield alt arts, actually, I'm not touching them at all. Because if you look at English Sword and Shield alt arts, the PSA 10s, yes, they are harder to grade than the English, but even then, the PSA 10 population is just so much bigger than the Japanese one. And I'll be paying more attention when there's a lot of hype around something. I feel like I did sort of learn that with investing in One Piece, because there was just so much hype around it like 6 to 7 months ago. And it seems like prices are retracing now that there's been a little bit of calming down. So that was my top 3 worst Pokemon investments. If you found value in this video, please do like and subscribe. And please let me know in the comments, what are your worst investment fails and what did you learn from it? I'd love to hear from you guys and open up the conversation with the community that I'm building. If you found some value in today's video, I'd really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. It really helps to push this video out and hopefully will help more people avoid making poor investment decisions. But with that said, thank you so much for watching up to this point and happy collecting.